When we examine a typical air conditioning system, we find four main components working together as a single thermal machine. These are the compressor, the condenser, the expansion valve, and the evaporator. Each of these parts has a specific role, and the system only works efficiently when all of them operate in perfect coordination. Both the condenser and the evaporator are heat exchangers. The condenser is installed outside the building, while the evaporator is located inside the room that needs to be cooled. Their physical separation is intentional, because the system must remove heat from indoors and reject it to the outdoor environment. At the heart of the system is the compressor. Its job is to circulate a refrigerant through a closed loop of pipework that connects all the components together. The refrigerant is a specially engineered fluid designed to change phase very easily between liquid and gas. This property allows it to absorb and release large amounts of heat with relatively small temperature changes. One key characteristic of refrigerants is their very low boiling point.
For example, refrigerant R410A can boil at approximately -48 degrees Celsius under certain pressure conditions. Pressure plays a major role here, because boiling temperature changes as pressure changes. If this same refrigerant is inside a pipe located in a room with an air temperature of around 30 degrees Celsius, that temperature is more than sufficient to cause the refrigerant to boil and change from a liquid into a vapor.
As the refrigerant enters the evaporator, it does so as a low-pressure, low-temperature mixture of liquid and vapor. It flows through the inside of the evaporator tubing, while a fan simultaneously moves the warm air from the room across the outsurface of those pipes. The fan is typically a compact propeller type, chosen to save space and driven by an electric motor to ensure steady airflow. As the warm room air passes over the cold evaporator surface, heat transfers through the pipe wall into the refrigerant. This added heat causes the refrigerant to boil. During this phase change, the refrigerant absorbs a significant amount of energy from the air, which is why the air leaving the evaporator is much cooler than the air entering it. The refrigerant effectively carries this absorbed heat away. This process is similar to boiling water in a pot. As the water heats up and turns into steam, it carries energy away in the form of vapor. In the same way, the refrigerant absorbs heat as it evaporates and transports that heat through the system. Inside the room, warm air enters the evaporator and cooler air exits, creating the cooling effect we feel. As the refrigerant continues flowing through the evaporator, it keeps absorbing heat until it has completely evaporated. By the time it reaches the outlet of the evaporator, it is slightly superheated. This means it is fully in the gas state and contains no remaining liquid droplets. This condition is extremely important for system safety. Liquid refrigerant entering the compressor can cause severe damage. The compressor contains an electric motor, and liquid refrigerant is incompressible. If liquid enters the compressor, it can lead to mechanical failure or electrical short circuits, resulting in serious damage. Therefore, the system is designed to ensure that only vapor reaches the compressor. The compressor then draws in this low pressure, low temperature, slightly superheated vapor from the evaporator. Inside the compressor, the vapor is squeezed into a much smaller volume. As the volume decreases, the pressure rises sharply. When pressure increases, temperature also increases. All the heat absorbed inside the evaporator is now concentrated into a smaller space, causing the refrigerant temperature to rise significantly. This temperature increase is critical to the next stage of the process. The compressor then pushes the refrigerant into the condenser. At this point, the refrigerant enters the condenser as a high pressure, high temperature, superheated vapor. The condenser is located outside the building, where the surrounding air may already be warm, especially on a hot summer day. Heat always flows naturally from a hotter substance to a cooler one. For this reason, the refrigerant must be hotter than the outdoor air. If it were not, heat would not be able to leave the refrigerant effectively. A fan helps by forcing outdoor air across the condenser coils. As the air flows over the hot pipes, it absorbs heat from the refrigerant. The outdoor air enters the condenser warm and leaves even hotter, having collected the unwanted heat from inside the building. As heat is removed from the refrigerant, it begins to change phase once again. The vapor cools and condenses back into a liquid. This process is similar to what happens when warm steam touches a cold window on a chilly day. The steam cools, condenses into liquid droplets, and those droplets then run down the glass surface. After passing through the condenser, the refrigerant exits as a high-pressure, medium-temperature, saturated liquid. From here, it flows toward the expansion valve. The expansion valve plays a critical control role in the system. Its main purpose is to regulate how much refrigerant enters the evaporator and to maintain the correct level of superheat. If too much refrigerant flows into the evaporator, it may not fully evaporate, allowing liquid to reach the compressor, which can be destructive. If too little refrigerant is allowed through, the cooling capacity drops and the system operates inefficiently. To perform its function, the expansion valve forces the refrigerant through a very small opening. This creates a large pressure difference across the valve. On one side of the valve, the refrigerant is a high-pressure liquid. On the other side, the pressure is much lower. As the refrigerant passes through the small opening, it sprays into the evaporator as a mixture of liquid and vapor. The refrigerant then expands to fill the low pressure space in the evaporator. This expansion causes both pressure and temperature to drop sharply, preparing the refrigerant to absorb heat once again. The cycle then repeats continuously. One of the earliest methods of controlling refrigerant flow was the fixed orifice device. This is commonly found in older refrigeration systems, such as domestic refrigerators. The orifice had a fixed size, meaning the system could only turn on or off to meet cooling demand. While this approach works, it cannot maintain a very stable temperature because there is no fine control. The system simply cycles between running and stopping. The next major development was the thermostatic expansion valve. This type of valve is still widely used today. It measures superheat at the evaporator outlet using a sensing bulb filled with another refrigerant. When superheat becomes too high, the fluid in the bulb expands and closes the valve slightly. When superheat becomes too low, the fluid condenses and opens the valve. Although this system works well, it requires careful calculation and manual adjustment by a trained technician. Setup can be time-consuming, and incorrect adjustment can reduce system efficiency. The valve is typically adjusted only during service visits, which means it cannot respond dynamically to changing conditions. Despite these limitations, thermostatic expansion valves remain reliable and effective, and they will likely continue to be used for many years. The latest evolution in refrigerant control is the electronic expansion valve. This system uses electronic sensors and a controller to measure temperature and pressure precisely. The valve position is adjusted automatically and continuously in real time. This allows the system to maintain optimal superheat, achieve maximum efficiency, and deliver peak performance under varying operating conditions. I hope you found this explanation informative and easy to follow. If you enjoyed it, kindly subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next one.